Hello and welcome to our 2019 Hurricane Special. It only takes one. I'm SNN Chief Meteorologist Justin Mosley. We all know last year have been very active in the tropics. With Hurricanes Matthew and Irma still fresh in our minds, these storms ravaged the Sunshine State, bringing a tremendous amount of damage. However, last year brought something we haven't seen in over 2 decades. It was a Category 5 hurricane by the name of Michael, making landfall right here in Florida. This storm nearly wiped parts of the Panhandle's landscape clean, and nearly 1 year later continues to suffer the devastating effects. Now, SNN's Jennifer Vegla spent time in the hard-hit North Florida town of Mexico Beach. She now joins us live here in Sarasota with more. Go ahead, Jen.
That's right, Justin. It truly only takes one storm to change a community forever. And it's September 2017 that could have been the Suncoast after Hurricane Irma. Storm surge would have been disastrous right here on the Sarasota Bayfront. But that was a reality for the Panhandle in October of last year. And recovery, still to this day, is far from over.
Downpour to devastation, from winds up to 161 miles per hour, toppling trees onto Panama City homes.
There's a giant limb inside the living room. It's the only thing that's holding up right now is the door frame. We've watched the crack in the wall go from about 1 inch to circumferencing the entire living room.
To storm surge, 12 to 14 feet high, flooding on to Mexico Beach.
Sick. Depressed. All of my military stuff and all my man cave was on the bottom floor. I could see that it was all gone. I could see that the windows were broken.
Flourishing communities turned fateful after Cat 5 Hurricane Michael. 7 months later, some wave the white flag.
We are forgotten by the government. We are forgotten by the United States Navy.
Like Johanna Beanblossom and her family, choosing to abandon their battle with insurance agencies and a life that took decades to build.
We are forced out of our home. We are forced out of our community. I'm going to uproot my family, and we are gone.
While others fear for the future of their community on Mexico Beach, living on the graveyard of their slice of paradise, feeling forced out by incoming developers and overpriced contractors.
They come in, they're buying everything up. They're buying everything up, they're offering big money. The big money means properties will be more expensive. The property taxes are going to go up. People around here, they're all retired. They're on limited income.
But thousands living in rubble choose to fight.
Life's going to throw you a couple of these curveballs. So we probably moped about it for a couple hours and then decided we were going to come back. So resilience was the name of the game on this one.
To restore, rebuild, and regain the unforgettable coast.
So Justin, yeah, it's one thing to see it in pictures and videos, but it's another thing to see it in person. And none of those pictures or videos do it justice with the disaster that these people are facing. And still to this day, they have a lot of recovery to face. So, we'll be thinking about them down here on the Suncoast.
All right, that's SNN's Jennifer Vegla. And like we just saw from her story, storms as of late are trending to be more intense. The past few weeks, we've seen an outbreak of severe weather across the country, bringing flooding, hail, and devastating tornadoes. SNN meteorologist Marco Lamano explores this rise in extreme weather events.
That whole thing, look at that!
We have the numbers. Extreme weather is on the rise across the country. While extreme weather has always occurred, it's occurring more. We just saw the 4th Category 5 hurricane, Michael, make landfall in the United States in 2018.
Michael is a hurricane of the worst kind.
Before going up to North Carolina shortly after Major Hurricane Florence made landfall there.
North Carolina is staring down another powerful hurricane.
And looking outside the United States, Super Typhoon Wu-Tip became the strongest February typhoon on record just this year.
We take great lengths not to be alarmist here at SNN, and we were very proud of our coverage of Hurricane Irma in 2017 for that reason. We look at the data and we make our conclusions and share them with you. But that's also why we would be remiss not to talk about the increase in extreme weather and extreme heat in the United States.
The severe California drought that produced gigantic wildfires last year, including their largest one on record last August, lingered into 2019. Many people had to be evacuated and lost their homes. Heavy rains flushed out the droughts and fires earlier this year in what's called a pineapple express. A pineapple express is a large buildup of moisture from Hawaii that hits the west coast of the U.S. Rain was needed, but not so much at one time. A deep freeze drove temperatures in the Midwest down as low as negative 26 degrees, with wind chill readings even lower than that. The amazing part, as newsworthy as it was an anomaly. Most record temperatures in any given year are record highs, including during the winter now. The Sarasota-Bradenton area broke 3 record highs this winter. No record lows were broken. In early March, 40 tornadoes spawned in the deep south.
I was really scared. I knew that it come real close, and I didn't know if everybody was okay or not.
An EF4 tornado killed 23 people in Alabama. Here in Florida, an EF3 tornado touched down in Leon and Jefferson County. This was only the second EF3 tornado to affect Leon County since 1945. In late March, a large storm system brought heavy rain and snow to the northern plains. In some places, rain fell on snow, causing a huge release of water into waterways. Dozens of areas by the rivers in the plains and Midwest experienced flooding, in many cases major flooding in dark blue. In Fremont County, Iowa, the Missouri River crested over 2 feet above a previous record set in 2011.
Oh man, there it is.
In April, preliminary reports showed almost 300 tornadoes formed in the United States that month. The average number of April tornadoes from 1991 to 2010 is 155, meaning this year came close to doubling that number. One mid-April outbreak spawned over 80 tornadoes based on preliminary reports. A second outbreak starting on the 18th spawned over 90 tornadoes. Over 60 spawned in a third outbreak at the end of the month.
It's coming this way. It's coming straight for us.
Multiple tornado outbreaks occurred in May.
Powerful tornado now coming up on Mangum, Oklahoma. There it is. It's now turning into a large wedge tornado.
One of the most noteworthy tornadoes was the Jefferson City tornado in Missouri on March 21st. Almost a mile wide, with a path nearly 20 miles long, this tornado destroyed numerous homes and businesses. This house was shifted off its foundation. This car service building collapsed, and cars were tossed into it. Late May, a scorching heat wave shattered record highs in the south. Macon, Georgia hit 100 degrees on May 26th, the first time they've recorded a triple-digit high in May. Sarasota broke several highs Memorial Day weekend.
And now it's hurricane season. After 3 years of hurricane landfalls in Florida, we're hoping that we finally see nothing this year. We are in an above-average period for hurricanes, and Florida is overall more at risk currently than decades ago. Part of the reason is what we call Atlantic Multidecadal Oscillation, which just means a natural climate cycle that affects sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic. We are in a warm period. But part of the reason why we're more at risk is not natural. It deals with things we're doing and where we're moving.
And that was SNN meteorologist Marco Lamano. Still to come in our hurricane special, It Only Takes One, meteorologist Dan Henry joins us to explain why the weather has been so wacky as of late. Plus, we have a panel of local experts here in our newsroom taking your questions to help you prepare in your neighborhood. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Before the break, Marco Lamano showed us some of the worst the weather has to bring. But what's causing a higher frequency of extreme events? SNN meteorologist Dan Henry joins us now. Dan, you spoke with a few leading experts when it comes to this sort of thing. And what's behind the weather, so to speak?
Well, there's a lot to answer that question. Tried to whittle it down and really figure out the nuances between the current state of the research linking climate change to tropical weather. So let's take a look.
August 6th, 1945. The most powerful man-made explosion in human history. The atomic bomb Little Boy detonates with a force equivalent to 15,000 tons of TNT. And yet, according to a 1981 study by the late Colorado State University forecaster Dr. Bill Gray, it is just 1/400th the amount of energy released in just 1 second by an average hurricane, let alone a strong one.
Winds of 185 miles per hour.
We know our love of sugar sand beaches, glimmering waters, and that refreshing sea breeze comes with an inherent risk from tropical weather. As Dr. Phil Klotzbach, hurricane researcher at Colorado State University, explains, that risk is increasing with time.
And so if you're talking about hurricanes causing more damage, the answer would be yes. There's really no debate about them causing more damage. But we published a paper last year in the Bulletin of the American Meteorological Society where we showed that there's a huge increase in damage. Most of that increase in damage to date has been just due to increases in population and wealth along the U.S. coastline. More people living along the coast, and also we're just more affluent than our parents and grandparents were, so there's more stuff to be damaged when these storms come ashore.
Data from Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii shows that since just 1945, carbon dioxide concentrations have increased by over 100 parts per million. And because we've mainly powered our growth with non-renewable energy, as this NASA animation demonstrates, the United States has warmed by approximately 2 degrees Fahrenheit in the last 70 years.
Here's the thing. This energy is not equally distributed. In fact, according to the expert group, Ocean Scientists for Informed Policy, 90% of the energy added to Earth's atmosphere has wound up here, in the Earth's oceans, where it can feed increasingly powerful hurricanes.
A 2018 study published by MIT professor Kerry Emanuel found that since 1980 there's been a 200% rise in the number of major hurricanes, and a nearly 400% increase in the number of Category 5, the most dangerous. To get a sense of the scale of the additional energy trapped in Earth's atmosphere, SNN spoke to space scientist Dr. Dylan Bell, a physics and earth science teacher at Pineview School.
Yeah, after all this calculations, I was able to kind of bring it down to this one table for you guys. And what we can see is the total energy in kilotons of TNT. So each one of these numbers represents a certain value in kilotons of TNT of energy. Now, the first value here is atomic bomb. It has around 20 kilotons of TNT. The average hurricane, which is around 5 days of length, is around 64 million kilotons of TNT. But then, when we kind of get to the global oceanic energy increase, that number goes up even larger. So we get up to around 87 billion kilotons of TNT.
It's true that before satellites were invented in the 1960s, observations of hurricanes were far less complete. We often relied on observations from the likes of you and I, coastal residents, passing ships and buoys well out to sea.
This is why Brian McNulty, Senior Research Associate at the University of Miami, summarizes recent research cautiously.
Climate change will probably make them rain more. It could make them more intense on average.
So what if, as McNulty suggests, the biggest impacts are still yet to come?
You can still get 15 or 20 feet of storm surge. You can still get 2, 3, 4, 5 feet of rainfall. You can still get 150, 60 mile an hour winds from them. You don't need climate change to make them more scary.
Regarding the 2019 hurricane season outlook, you'll hear terms like near average. But in a world where average means something much different than it did 20, 40, or 74 years ago, now more than ever, preparation and awareness are key. Be prepared and stay informed this and every hurricane season.
Yeah, and the big takeaway I got from those experts, you just heard Brian McNulty say, whether or not climate change is involved with every little shift in the weather patterns that we see, hurricanes are plenty strong enough with or without additional help.
That's for sure. And the takeaway from all this is that it only takes one, and now is the time to prepare. And we need to think about preparation before a storm even threatens.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Straight ahead in our special report, It Only Takes One, our panel of local experts will take a look at your concerns and answer your questions on the 2019 hurricane season. We'll be right back. Esteemed panel of local experts from Sarasota, Manatee, and Charlotte counties here to address some of your concerns and also your questions for the upcoming hurricane season ahead. And gentlemen, thanks for being here with me. Our pleasure. Really appreciate that. I guess one of my first questions for you guys is what did you learn from Hurricane Michael last year? Category 5 hurricane, something the Panhandle's never seen before. And we hear around town we're never getting hit here in Sarasota, Charlotte, and Manatee counties. But what lessons did you learn? Go ahead, Steve.
I think one of the biggest things is the people to realize it went from barely a storm to a Category 5 in less than 3 days. So unless you have a plan already in place like now, that's not time enough to put anything together. So make sure you have your plan and know when and where you're going to evacuate to is one of the biggest.
Ed?
Well, you know, these two gentlemen actually went up there to help. I didn't have that opportunity, but we did have an opportunity to have the EM chief from Bay County come speak at an event tonight, actually. And we learned a lot from what he experienced and how, like Steve said, short notice, rapid intensification, and they had 100,000 people they wanted to evacuate, and less than 20,000 obeyed that order. So it's critical that people evacuate. And the other thing that he mentioned was the storm surge, of course, along the coast was devastating, but the wind and the storm stayed strong enough 100 miles inland and completely destroyed homes that far away from the coast.
It's incredible.
So it's not just people on the water that need to pay attention to these.
It's inland as well. And Jerry, I'm sure you can kind of
I think
echo those.
I had kind of a good experience. I was up in Gadsden County, actually before the hurricane hit. And it's a very financially constrained county, and yet I was able to be there and observe, mainly through the faith-based community, how that community came together and answered the call to help each other, and it really turned out to be a really rewarding experience.
That's for sure. And they continue to kind of clean up there up in North Florida for sure. Well, you guys kind of all do the same job in your specific counties, but I guess my question, what are the unique challenges specific to your individual counties versus the rest of the Suncoast? And again, Steve, you're in Manatee County, so what are the issues that you would have there?
Well, probably similar to what Ed and Jerry have, but obviously we have the coastline, Anna Maria Island, and Longboat Key, so we got the exposure of the Gulf. With Manatee River coming inland, what a lot of people don't realize is how far inland a level A evacuation goes. And then also in Manatee County, a great concern are mobile homes and manufactured homes. No matter where they are in Manatee County, they have to evacuate at level A when we declare that. So they could be 20, 30 miles from water, but because of the construction, they have to evacuate, and we need to know beforehand their needs. If they're medically special needs, how many of them need to go to a shelter, or how many needs transportation, not even 24, 48 hours beforehand. We need to know now.
Elevation plays a big role in evacuation and your levels and things of that nature. You mentioned Anna Maria Island and the beaches there. Give us an idea of where is a higher spot to be in Manatee County. I mean, you want to run from the water and hide from the wind, so to speak, but what areas are a little bit better protected from
Well, obviously the best is further east, so east of the interstate. There are pockets that are a little higher inland, but the problem is if they go online and look at our evacuation map, their house may be high and dry, but 3 or 4 blocks around them, they would be on island where nobody could get to them. So our biggest would be further east they can go.
Okay. Ed, your turn.
Well, I think that Jerry and I have similar situation with the counties to our south. Very little shelter capability, very few shelters available for people. So like in Irma, we sheltered people from Collier, Charlotte, Lee, Miami-Dade, you know, as everybody was trying to get away from Irma as it came up from the bottom of the peninsula. Mm-hmm. So I think shelter capacity for all those people. So our challenge, our answer to that challenge is trying to educate people who can stay home. A lot of the newer homes from 2002 built with the building code, if people put shutters on them and invite other people in there, not everybody has to get on the road, not everybody has to go to the evacuation center.
Instead of hundreds of miles.
Exactly. Run from the water, hide from the wind, like you said. And if we would get more people, like my home, I wasn't there, I was at the EOC, but my wife brought in family and friends and neighbors that didn't have shutters, and they all made it fine. 5 dogs, 10 adults, 3 kids in the same house. if everybody would kind of model that across the county, we wouldn't need as much shelter space.
And in Charlotte County, you guys are somewhat unique. It's so low-lying down there. I know Deep Creek is one of the higher points to be in that county. I mean, how do you handle evacuating people basically across the entire county? It's vulnerable.
We do have the distinction of having the lowest average elevation along the West Coast, and couple that with we're the least built up, so we don't have a lot of development east of 75 that we can send people to. We are able to open 4 shelters if the storm is not awfully bad, but like Ed and like Steve, sometimes a severe enough storm, we really struggle to find places to put people, and always encourage them to have an alternate plan. Never look for public shelters because they fill up very quickly.
And that also includes pets. And I know Sarasota County has just opened up many of the shelters to pets, or evacuation centers, I should say.
Yes, all the evacuation centers are pet friendly, and we made that decision with our school district partners because during Irma it ended up that way. And you know, at the height of the storm, people showing up with pets, the principals at the school said, you know what, let's figure it out, bring them in, but not being prepared for that caused a lot of damage. So what we've gone back and looked with the facilities folks at the school district, found rooms that don't have carpeting, that have tile, locker rooms, and we have identified rooms on every campus that we're using as evacuation centers for pets to be. Okay. So they're all pet friendly because we figure people are going to show up that way anyway.
Excellent. All right. Well, we have to take a quick break, guys. We appreciate you being here. Stay put. We're going to continue with much more of our segment here after this short break, so stay with us. Well, that's all the time that we have for now. I want to thank you for watching, and also want to thank our panel for being here, providing some great information. And the takeaway from all this, it only takes one storm. We have to be prepared as if you were going to be hit with a hurricane this season, and now is the time to prepare. So for all of us here at SNN, I'm Chief Meteorologist Justin Mosley. You can watch this special, an encore presentation coming up this Saturday at 6 p.m. We thank you for joining us, and we'll see you with more news throughout the evening here on SNN.